you believe it? Finally back. Well, finally back to look at the food intake. So I've already got 3 servings of Chex. I was actually kind of disappointed. I was scanning around the kitchen. I was looking for a box of Golden Grams that used to be floating around in here. Somebody must have finished them off. But, whatever. Simple carb. I know some dudes would pretty much hype up the Chex over any other kind of cereal just because it's rice based rather than like, grain or wheat or whatever. But to me, I'm looking at 120 grams of carbs. There's like 3 grams of fat. Basically, I mean, that's actually not true. I was about to say negligible. No, do not even think about skipping. Like I just looked up the nutrition label, right? Per serving 1 gram of fat in, this little dry Chex. Don't just skip over that. That's the absolute worst mistake you could do. In a bulking context, it's not bad, right? Because, of course, you'd be eating more food than you're really tracking. But if you're trying to diet down, you've got to be OCD Mr. Monk level. Like any amount of ketchup you get, that's 3 grams of carbs. Any amount of extra oil you put in the pan when you made some eggs, that's 5 grams of fat. When it comes to my dieting, not style, but maybe theory, if you could call it that, calories is the number one factor, right? Because you got to remember, I could eat as perfect food as I want, train as hard as I want for years on end, but if I don't eat enough calories to be in a calorie surplus and actually deposit, well, mass, but primarily muscle onto my frame, I'm not going to get anywhere. I mean, I'll look like a freak, but I'll still be like 220. The only way to actually gain weight is to eat calories in excess of what your body is burning per day. And vice versa is apparently a hard truth. And from some like TikTok freakout videos I see, apparently it's a argued truth. But the only way to lose body fat, again, same thing, but in reverse, you have to eat less calories than your body burns per day, aka a calorie deficit. But apart from that, I'm really trying to get in tons of carbs, my 250 grams of protein ish. I kind of stay around a gram per pound, right? So right now I'm at 250. I'm going to eat 250 grams. If you're a $160, go for a $160. If you do 200 at that weight, or if you did 100 at that weight, I don't think it's going to change anything too much. But good rule of thumb, I'd say gram per pound is where you're at. In terms of fats, it kind of fluctuates. Maybe a fourth of that. So usually my fats are around, well, the bulking gets a little funky. Whatever. I don't really have a specific fat goal I'm aiming for. Bulking days, I'll get up in the 150s. But carbs, I did a whole rant in the drive back from the gym last night about how carbs are totally going to change the way my workouts and pumps feel. So that's what I'm really trying to push. So today, by the end of it, I should be about at 800-ish grams of carbs. So good start with 120, and then I have to add, of course, anytime you're eating anything, at least as often as you can, food scale is going to come in crazy fucking handy. But let's pour on, 3 cups of milk or so. That'd be 720 grams. Perfect. So 3 servings. So that puts me about 170 grams of carbs, 25 grams of protein, and about 25 grams of fat for this whole bowl. So that's however many calories. I'll do the math in the end. I'll add like a counter. Like, it was kind of confusing a little bit last time. So each meal, I'll just write out the macros. And then at the end of the day, I'll write out the total. So I'll just sit here for, 5 minutes, however long it takes me to get this down, and then go do cardio. So this is the pre-cardio meal. Fasted, it's not going to make a fucking difference. And if you're bulking, I think a big breakfast, or at least a moderately sized breakfast, is going to make it a bit easier. Because you got to remember, if you do no breakfast, and like let's say you're going to school, so you don't eat anything until lunch, then that means you've only got from lunch till whenever you go to sleep. That's your window to eat. Whereas the dude who had a big ass breakfast, his window is going to be the complete day. So let's just jump to whatever I eat next, the post cardio meal. All right. So apart from any, maybe tweets, apart from any treats or anything that I might have before I go train, this will pretty much be the pre-workout meal. This is one I've kind of been loving. So obviously, I actually go out of my way, cook steak. Usually I'm kind of lazy. I like getting a lot of pre-made food, like a Costco huge 15-pound turkey breast, and just cut chunks off. But the steaks I've been loving. So about a pound of steak, 100 grams of protein. I'd usually just do one of these, like 8 ounces. But since breakfast was kind of lower on protein, I'll just double up. And then a pre-made kind of, I forget the brand, but it's like a 5-serving thing of mashed potatoes. So all this adds up. I already tracked it on my phone. I'm going to have to pull it back up. But 100 grams of protein, 20-ish grams of fat, maybe a little more with all the avocado oil I cooked it in. And then this is going to be about 90 grams of carbs, maybe 14 grams of fat, if I remember right. But, that's about right. So I've never really been a huge proponent of really hitting meals per se. That's one factor which I kind of differentiate in terms of my, let's just call it rich piana similarities. Because calories are calories, dude. You can't eat something and have it not count. That's one thing that I think people really kind of have to understand. Like, if you're dieting and you're like, okay, I'm going to have this as a treat. Or even worse, let's say you're not really doing a strict diet. You're just kind of a layman kind of character. And you get what I'm saying. You're not crazy invested. And you're like, yeah, I'll have a salad for lunch. Yeah, I'll just have a couple eggs for breakfast. Right? In your mind, you're like, I did good today. And then it's 8 o'clock. You eat a bunch of pizza that was in the fridge left over, a couple scoops of ice cream. That just 1 hour of snacking before you go to bed will completely offset all the quote unquote good that you did that day. So that's kind of why I sort of took a bit of an anal kind of stance about tracking every kind of calorie. So in a way, this is almost, if you wanted to call it that, you could say meal 3. But after cardio, I stopped in the vending machine at the gym. 2 things of juice, 60 grams of carbs total, followed by 2 big-ass crunch bars, 400 calories total. So that puts me at whatever I'm at now. But I'm sure once I finish this, plus a bunch of water with electrolytes and a couple of amino acids, I'm going to want to take a pretty substantial nap. But afterwards, right, once that nap is taken, and most of the carbs from this mashed potatoes are flowing around my system, plus I'm fully hydrated from finishing off this tub of water, then I'm going to feel super fucking energized for legs. The last thing I'd want to do, and this is why I don't train early in the morning, why I like cardio in the morning, lift later at night, is just because right in the morning, give me one moment. Right in the morning, that's when you're literally in a fasted state from going the whole night without eating. So if that's when you have to train, I guess you just have to deal with it. But I'm going to feel much better, stronger, more endurance, just going to have a better pump and a better workout. If I wait for the whole day of, a substantial amount of calories and meals and carbs and water and electrolytes, because right in the morning, I'm not very hydrated. If anything, I'm dehydrated. You lose a couple of pounds every night. I guess it depends on how big you are, but just by breathing, you're breathing out water. You're going to wake up literally more dehydrated than you were at night. So for me, it just makes sense. Tons of food during the day, fuel up, super hydrated, and then when I actually get into my lift, that's when I'm like, okay, gas tank's at F, gas tank's at full. I'm ready to try to empty that thing as hard as I can, aka, push every set as hard as I can. So that's kind of the plan for tonight. So if this is the last actual meal, then we'll get straight to the car talk. But legs is going to be pretty sick. I'm going to a gym that has a really nice hack squat that I like. It's like cable loaded, but we'll just talk about that when we're there. If I talked about the workout every meal, this would be like a 2-hour video. But this will just fucking disappear in the next 20-ish minutes. I'm sure I'll probably take a nap right here and just sit down on my phone. And when I wake up, I'll be ready to take the pre and get out of here. Now that I napped a little too long, maybe just a little bit too long. Well, is that even possible? Can you nap too long? Because now I feel very, even extra well rested than I did after my actual night's sleep. I don't care what that one guy says. Oh God, what's his name? I don't care what the Punisher says, right? I like naps. So it's now 9 o'clock. I kind of started my day late. Like morning cardio was not at 6 a.m. This is kind of a late sleep-in kind of day. But 9 o'clock now, I feel very strong because I've got, I mean, how many? I looked at the, well, I guess I can just pull it up. But so far, 430 grams of carbs, and then total for the day, 3,500 calories. That's about right. That's probably what I like. Because now, I mean, when I go home, I can just have one big meal and I'll be at my 5,000 calorie goal. So that's pretty much going to be what I'm sticking at for the next few weeks. Just 5,000 calories per day. Like, it wouldn't be too hard for me to get home and get up to 6 or 7 tonight. But then I'm not going to have anywhere to go from there. I can't eat 10,000 calories in a day. And maybe that's just me being closed-minded, but that's just too much. All right, the realm of about 5 to 6 is kind of where I'm comfortable for a prolonged period of time. It's something I can sustain. But this bulk, I'm trying to work my way up to it. So these last 2 months, I was kind of in the upper 3s, 4s, and then now I'd say this bulk is, honestly, I'd say it's only really starting now. Because up until, well, around now, you know, the last week or so, I've really kind of just been eating an amount of food that I've been hungry for and not going too far beyond that. But if you do want to actually, you know, layer on some meat on your bones, on your goddamn frame, then eating to discomfort. Now, I'm not talking like I'm throwing up after every meal, but eating when you're not really hungry, that's your cue, because your body loves homeostasis. Your body loves to stay the same, to do the same stuff, to stay the same weight. It loves staying the same, right? That's what it's used to. So if you're eating an amount of food which your body is just used to, then, you know, it's obviously more complicated than this, but it's almost as though you have no incentive to grow. Now, really, it's you don't have enough energy to grow. Even if you do have the, let's say in this leg day or in your leg day, you destroy your legs perfectly. Like, you hit them as much as you could to the point where when you recover, you'll be able to put on the most muscle tissue possible on your hamstrings, your quads, your adductors, your everything. But if you don't eat enough food to support that recovery, it's not going to happen. You know, I mean, sure, you'll recover. I could do a crazy leg day. I mean, when I diet down, I'm still doing crazy leg days. But the recovery in a dieting phase, or you're maintaining your muscle, the goal of it is very different. Because it's to recover almost from the workout as though it was purely just a stress to maintain the muscle that's already built. But, you know, right now, my whole goal, overarching, not even getting into workout splits or whatever, is to stimulate the muscle in the gym as hard as I can, and ideally progressively harder and harder and harder, because your body gets used to it. And then, once I'm done with that workout, I want to chill. Right? You're not going to catch me running around for fun, playing soccer or basketball. I'm chilling. I'm in a chill mode now, and I just want to get my food in my system, hang out, let my body do its thing, put some meals or I don't know what I'm talking about, put some muscle on, go to sleep, repeat the process. So that is the goal there. But of course, if I didn't have enough calories in my system to support that growth, I'd stay the same weight for this whole fucking bulk. which I think a lot of people are, that's a state which a lot of people are just kind of stuck in. Because I feel kind of silly even saying this because I say this all the time and everybody says this, but the fact that it's still not really being heard makes me want to say it again. Is, it's like you hear somebody, dude, I eat so much food, man, I can't grow. Or my bench has been maxed out at that's blah, 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 blah. Or I can't get past blah, blah, blah. All right, man, how many calories are you eating? They, when you ask someone under 200 pounds how many calories they're eating, they instantly take on the demeanor of a world-class, like, competitive eater. You don't even know how many calories I eat, man. I had 303 hot dogs in one day. I had a 20,000 calorie breakfast just because I was hungry. But I can't seem to put on any weight. I got a fast metabolism. I just burn through it. Now, I'm not going to completely discredit that. Obviously, that's a fucking overemphasized joke. But when people say they have a fast metabolism, that's legit. Not necessarily, well, let me just kind of get in. The dude who wakes up, goes to school, comes back home, or goes to work, comes back home, sits, activity level at zero, apart from, I don't know, what's a normal amount of steps in a day? A few thousand? Right. Other than that, his day is very stagnant. He doesn't get up, he doesn't do shit. For him, his body just doesn't need that much energy. His body doesn't need a ton of food to run. If you've got a dog at your house and you've got a cat, the dog's going to be eating more food. Obviously, because he's bigger, or she's bigger. Don't let me be closed-minded like that. But if the dog's running around playing fetch, fucking just high energy, always doing shit, then it's going to eat more food and need more food to stay the same weight, just because it's expelling more energy, right? Whereas the cat is just sitting around chilling. You give him half a bowl of fucking, I can't remember the brand that Oliver eats. You give him a little scoop of something, that's good enough for him, So if somebody's a bit more jittery, even if you just like tap your feet all the time or you're constantly fidgeting, over time in the day, that's going to add up to, somebody who's totally still versus somebody who's much more fidgety, that could be a couple hundred calories. But other than that, you are not a fucking genetic and thermodynamic anomaly where you just have a black hole for a stomach and every time you eat stuff, it just disappears and goes nowhere, right? These calories are being used. And if you can't gain any weight, then all the calories that you're eating, even though it might feel like, I can't eat anymore, I can't eat one more bite, all that those calories are doing is refueling your body for the amount of energy it needs that day. And that's it. And in terms of muscle growth, that is not enough. You need to eat. Honestly, I like a substantial jump above maintenance. I want to be maybe 1,000 calories above maintenance. But that's also just kind of ballparking. Really, I just want to be at a level of calorie surplus where I know that I'm gaining weight and I can track it. Because the scale doesn't lie. If 3 weeks pass when you're the same weight, then you've just been filling your tank up halfway every time and staying in the same place you've always been. So let that be a little call to action for you, or if you know somebody, if you or someone you love has been affected by I have high metabolism syndrome, call this number below for a free consultation. But getting back to what we're actually doing here for legs, hamstrings first. Really, quads are the main course. Hamstrings are just kind of a side dish because it's not very difficult for me to have a really good hamstring lift. And I'm not talking like I'm going easy on them. My sets on hamstrings are really hard. I'm doing X amount of weight, like to failure with like partials where I can really barely even move on the hamstring curls and the standing hamstring curl and whatever else. So hamstrings, I really just don't have a problem training. But quads, like this is what I'm trying to say here. One set to total failure of hamstrings is incredibly different in terms of its intensity and just kind of fatigue load than one set of quads is. So in a way, I'm just getting hamstrings out of the way, and then lock it in for quads. But that's not the only reason why I like hamstrings first. So if you've never squatted with a hamstring pump, or even the leg extension honestly feels better. But hitting quads once your hamstrings are already worked and already pumped up, in no way do I think that that weakens me. Like if I were to squat X number of pounds with no quad pump versus a quad pump, I don't think my strength is going to differentiate. Or, what am I trying to be fancy for? I don't think my reps are going to be different. Because having destroyed hamstrings doesn't take away from my pressing strength. Not on squats, at least. Maybe if you have a real power lifter, vertical shins, bend over squat, where you basically do a good morning. In those types of squats, or maybe some leg presses, hamstrings will take over a little bit more. But in a relatively upright squat, the only things coming into play on your pressing strength are your quads, your adductors a little bit, and your glutes. So having pumped up hamstrings, I guess I haven't even described the benefit. I just like it because in the bottom, when you're in the hole of the squat, your hamstrings almost act as a cushion for you between your calves and your hamstrings. So it's almost not as an abrupt stop, but also you just got more blood in the area. Right? Who doesn't want that? Who doesn't freaking want that? So hamstrings is going to be, like I said, hamstring curls of a variety of styles. There's a seated one, there's a few laying ones, and there's a standing one. I might just kind of do a rotation. Who's to say? But quads should end up looking a little different than normal. I'm not just going to do 100 set of leg extensions. I'm going to bias some pressing. So 2 leg extension sets, maybe 3, just to really make sure my quads are nice and warm. Because same thing with pressing with a hamstring pump, squatting with a quad pump, I have been fucking liking it a lot. But I think, and this is subject to change, once I actually get into the gym and get warmed up and actually feel around the machines, that's what's really going to decide whether I want to do this, that, or the other. But my basic idea, a few sets of leg extensions, right? Pre-exhaust, pump. I guess that's really it. Plus the burn from leg extensions, so I know they're good sets. Followed by maybe some squats. Definitely some machine hack squats like I was talking about earlier. And maybe some Smith stuff. Maybe I'll even get crazy and try to do a little bit of leg press. Not sure. But since it's so late, I really don't think that any of that is going to be a problem for me. Plus, it's Monday. It's National Chest Day. So the leg machines should be completely open. But I need to try to match the intensity of the last leg day I did with Fuad Ben up at the Hostile Gym. That was a good one. Obviously hamstrings was hard, but quads was fucking brutal. And we didn't even do that much volume. We only did 5 total sets. Well, there was some warm-ups too, kind of some what's the word again? Kind of some feeder sets, working up some of the real weights. But that machine squat felt sick. Yeah. After one of those sets of machine squats we did there, I had to actually lay down on the fucking ground and catch my breath because my quads were just fucking destroyed. So that's the kind of intensity that I would want to hold myself to. I've been kind of a chump. I've been doing leg extensions a lot for quads because it's easy for me. It's not too hard for me to sit on the leg extension and go crazy. And they're still good sets. But I think this is a situation where it's the treasure you seek lies in the cave you're afraid to enter. So I think big ass quads might be, for me at least, might be hiding behind much more volume on pressing. So that's and if that's not true, for the next few months I do a lot of heavy pressing, or a lot of, not even super heavy, but just a lot more pressing rather than leg extensions, and I see not much change in results, or worst case, slower results for quads, then I'll just go back to how I'm doing it. But there is absolutely nothing to lose by trying something new, especially if it's got some seriously potential benefits. Now, that is not necessarily a world encompassing piece of advice, but in terms of training, that's what I'm talking about. So let's just hope it's not too busy. Get in there. And then ideally the best lifts are the ones where it just kind of happens. Like, oh, I walk in and then get my music playing, get warm, and then boom, I'm back in the car like you know. So we'll see if we get something like that or really get in the zone. But that's it, man. Let's just get started. I feel like I always start with this machine on hamstrings whenever I'm at this specific gym. And this isn't anything incredibly fancy. You can recreate this just by standing on the leg extension at your gym backwards. And honestly, it's a pretty comparable feeling. I'd say this is maybe a little bit better, but just because it's specifically designed to be used this way. So let me actually lower this one notch. But moderate weight, I'm really going for a squeeze here. If I were to compare this to like a set of bicep curls, this is more like, you know, holding a light weight like the 40s or something and just squeezing it for a second on top and then coming back down, squeezing it. Whereas when I move on to the leg curls, that'll be more like a really heavy easy bar, just swinging that shit around. So an even mix of those styles is pretty good. At least I think so. Okay. Okay. One or two more. Okay, that's enough. Okay. I lied. This feels fucking sweet. I'm gonna sit here for like 2 more at least. Oh my god. Oh my god. One more. Oh, fuck. Okay. Honestly, I already feel pretty fucked up. I think a little bit of leg curls, then I'm ready for leg extensions. Full stack, moderately paced reps. You know, I'm not going to try to just throw it around with no regard for quality. I'm going to try to squeeze kind of hard, at least on the first few reps when I'm strong, and then burn out with partials. This might even be the last one. Honestly, if this feels really good, I might just be done with hamstrings here and move on. But if I feel like I'd benefit from one more set, I think you know what I'm going to do. Come on. Oh my god. Okay. Let me think about it for a moment. I'll see how I feel in like a minute.
Yeah. I see you need a hat on one time. You guys are wearing your hats all like that. Yeah. I saw you in here. How are you? I was great too.
Yeah, keep going. Like 5 more. One more. Oh my god. Okay. That's enough. Sometimes I start off quads with light squeezing sets, 20 reps, hold it for a moment, back down. Obviously a short moment, but still a moment. But I think today I want to get back to I don't want to say my roots, but a real simple set. So full stack, double leg, just burn out. Quick reps, obviously with reasonable control. I'm not gonna launch the weight so fast that the fucking stack flies up in the air and then clangs against the machine. I have to catch it. But definitely more of a fatigue focused set rather than a squeeze focused set, if you get what I'm getting at. But if I do a set real light squeeze versus one like this, as long as I push it and I know I'm right at that cusp of obviously pure complete muscular failure, you're kind of limited by your mind's capabilities. Like if you were to stick electrodes on my quads after I finish this set, they probably have more in the tank, but I'm gonna try to push it as hard as I can. And if you know you're doing that for real and you're not joking, it's hard to have a bad fucking set. So let's just get hyped up and do it. Work. I think I'm gonna do a squeezing set the next one. Lighter and slower, single leg. Ooh. Okay, so this will actually be a heavier set than the last one, since this is more than half the stack, single leg, but the reps are gonna look much different. So no point explaining, I'll just show them to you. They'll be a bit slower, more controlled. Okay. One more like that. A little heavier. Holy shit. Okay. Let's do some squat machine. Fuck. Again, making use of my surroundings and getting some assistance. That's how to do it. So I need to pick a song, get hyped up. And this is the whole stack. I'm not gonna do it sissy squat style. I'm just gonna do it regular intended butt against the seat style. But with this weight, I don't wanna say there's no chance because that's a negative approach, but 10 reps is gonna be fucking hard. So I'll try to make sure I push it as close to, well, honestly, as close to death as I can get. That's it. Okay. One more, at least. Oh my god, fuck. Okay, that's enough. Yeah. Okay. Let's just sit here and breathe for a little. Okay. I was gonna try one more, but potentially I'm just not recovered from the last leg day, quad-wise. But I'm fucking tapped out. But that is not as much volume pressing-wise as I would want to do. I definitely want to get 2 more hard sets in, but I'm gonna have to save it for the next one. Dude, my legs are fucking cooked. I'm gonna sleep like a fucking baby tonight. I'm gonna sit here, breathe a little more, Then we go check the pump. Okay, so for any of you guys who love the removal of the pants, sorry to disappoint. They're already fucking off. But, oh, it might be the gym. Honestly, I always get extra sweaty in here. But this shirt was not two-tone when I walked in. That's for fucking sure. So let's roll these bad boys up. Oh, and see how the fucking legs are looking underneath. Oh shit, I gotta stand right between this fucking pole. I like it. I like it. What do you think? Certainly not nothing. Oh, this is what I'm going for too. That line of separation between quad and hamstring. Oh man. Dude, I am fucking beyond cooked. Oh, but pumped, fatigued. Those hard sets on that machine hack squat really took a lot out of me. More than expected. But let's get in the car, go back home and eat. Fucking starving. And then I'm ready for bed. Love it. All right. I think I pussied out a little bit on the end of that quad session. It kind of, there we go, waving to Dominic and Nathan. If I see you at a gym and we have a little chit chat, I will definitely remember you, but I am bad at remembering names. They just do not stick. I do try to work on it though. But yeah, I need more time. Big sets of squats or any heavy pressing. It's not like leg extensions where I'm doing like maybe a 2-minute rest. Like I need a couple minutes because I want to get my heart rate back down to at least baseline for the workout. Because after like a gnarly ass set, I mean, I can be up in the, I don't even know, probably the 160s, maybe even a little bit higher than that, like right after a really crazy set. But to get back down to like maybe, I don't wear like a Fitbit or anything, so I don't really track how it fluctuates. But, you know, whatever baseline is for the lift, maybe 100, maybe 110 or something. Like, I got to get it back down to there so I can, you know, sit, breathe comfortably. And I'm like, okay, now I'm ready. Like, rather than even think about, like, tracking your heart rate or whatever else like that, in between sets, a good gauge on how long your rest period should be. This is a comment I actually get a couple times, and I haven't really answered it. But how long are my rest periods? It's really just as long as I need to feel ready to do another set. So if I'm doing a set like, let's just say, you know, rear delts or lateral raise machine, you know, or like calf raises, you know, relatively light movements like that. What I'm waiting for is I'm waiting to kind of feel my quad, feel my, you know, shoulders or my calves or my rear delts or whatever else kind of stop burning, right? And feel strong enough where I can do a similar intensity set again, you know. So if I just did 20 reps with this much weight, I'll wait a minute or two until I feel ready to do a similar amount of reps with the same weight again. Now with crazier movements where my whole body's involved and at the end of the set I'm really you know, like fucking, I gotta catch my breath for real. Like those, after that second set of squats, I laid down for a second. Not because I was like absolutely dying, but it was just a little bit easier for me to catch my breath and kind of relax my lower back. But with sets like that, you know, it probably takes me a little bit longer to regain my breath than it does for my quads to actually feel ready to go again. So with those movements, I mean, with those heavy sets of those machine presses, I'm getting into like the 7-minute range, maybe not 7, but definitely 5, just because it takes, I mean, literally the biggest muscle on your build. It's going to take a little while to reoxygenate, and inverse to that, it's going to take a lot of fucking oxygen to replenish. So that's kind of why after a set of, you know, machine presses or squats or whatever, I got to sit here for a couple of minutes and really huff and puff to get back to at least close to baseline. Whereas with lateral raises or even tricep pushdowns, that aerobic factor isn't really there. So that's kind of why I like the lower rep sets for quads, because just because they're over quicker. You know, a 25 set or a 25 rep set on some kind of pressing movement, pendulums, hacks, even just barbell squats, that's fucking hard. Whereas maybe an 8 rep set where you're going that heavy, sure, it's hard, but it's over quicker. So it feels a little bit easier. I think that's just maybe because I'm a little bit more prone to do heavier, lighter, or heavier, lower rep sets. But there's got to be something to that high rep burning sensation. So I'm going to make sure that these quad days get more and more, I mean, honestly, just more and more intense. I may even go so far as to save hamstrings for another day. I know I was kind of hyping up hamstrings pre-quads because it does feel better squatting. It does feel better just because you've got some blood flow in the area. That doesn't mean I can't do a little hamstring warm-up. And I think, really, I think quads are big enough for me, or let's just say quads are taxing enough for me, that I think they deserve their own day. You know, it wouldn't be too difficult for me to add hamstrings in on, you know, a different quad day, or maybe even save hamstrings for after quads. Maybe take a little 20-minute intermission in between just to kind of recover a little bit, so that I can really destroy quads and then deal with hamstrings after. There's a lot of different ways to go about it and sort of think about it. There's definitely a lot of bro science involved because this is very subjective kind of assumption-based stuff that I'm saying. But either way, a hard leg day, they are rare. And I'm not saying they're rare like for me specifically. I mean just in general for the lifting populace. It's no fucking wonder that skipping leg day is such a fucking prevalent joke. It's because everybody does it. Because, I mean, let's say you've been training legs with maybe moderate to low intensity, you're not going to get any fucking results. So anybody that does do legs on a consistent basis probably isn't really hitting them hard enough to stimulate a ton of growth. So they're like, I got small legs, fuck it, whatever, skip them. Who gives a shit? Plus, nobody really looks at your legs too much in day-to-day life. If you got big shoulders, that's gonna show through a t-shirt. You got big arms, it's gonna show when you're sitting on your desk at school or walking around, whatever. Right? Big legs are usually concealed unless you're constantly wearing shorts. And apart from those factors, it's just hard. You know, it's you kind of have to understand sort of the idea of delayed gratification if you're going to seriously push a leg day. Apart from the fact that you're kind of just enjoying the benefit of exerting yourself that hard, what do you get out of a good leg day? Other than being able to say, okay, holy shit, that was fucking hard. And you kind of enjoy it that way, almost a little bit masochistically. Or maybe not. Obviously, pushing yourself just feels good. I know I'm kind of satisfied after I do a really good set, to the point where I'm like, okay, I pushed myself to the max on that one, or at least as close as I could muster. That felt pretty good. But apart from that, it's just fucking painful. It's uncomfortable. You're sweating like a nut. You're breathing hard. It fucking hurts, you know. So it's no surprise. It is absolutely no surprise that legs get neglected the most out of any muscle group on the body. But all that means is if you do it, and you do push yourself to build yourself some cannons, then you're all the cooler for it. So, that's my thought process there. But it's 11:13 now. Really, I think part of the reason why I didn't do any more volume was I kept getting distracted a little bit. A couple of characters were feeling particularly chatty, and I've got a hard time saying, okay, let me do my set, that's kind of my fucking fault. So that wasn't a straight up hour and a half lift. It was a little bit more like an hour, which that's on me though. Fuck. I hate rushing a workout. You know, when it comes to anything else. When it comes to like trying to fold or do chores or do my homework for school or like study or whatever, I don't mind rushing. I don't mind being in a hurry. But when it comes to the lift, I like having, honestly, as long as the lift is actually going to take, in my schedule, I kind of want an extra 30 minutes before and behind it, just so I don't have to feel like I'm, trying to finish before a deadline or get my lift done before the gym closes. I just fucking hate it. I think it may just be because I kind of have a disagreeable nature. Um, so when it comes to the gym, to these lifts, which I put an incredible amount of fucking value on, like I think I'm just a fucking freak because this is the biggest part of my day. This is the shit that I'm seriously like, well, I mean, it can honestly change me from having a good day to a shit day. Like, let's say I couldn't make it to the gym, and I'm like, oh fuck. Like, it's whatever. One day isn't gonna kill you, and if anything, it'll just let me get my calories in a little bit easier, get a good refeed, and I'll just do the lifts tomorrow, the next day, and have a little bit more rest. But maybe I've just got an unhealthy obsession. But since I put so much emphasis on it, I don't want anything to distract me. If my phone's getting blown up from any kind of character, like, family, friends, whatever, if it's really going crazy, put that shit on do not disturb. You know, just get in your own zone. I could have a meteor shower happening right over my head, landing right next to me. I want to get my music playing, get hyped up, do a fucking set of leg extensions, and forget about it. And then, you know, in a way, I've kind of changed my opinion on this matter. So when it comes to people considering the gym as a safe space, in the sense of, well, calling the gym a safe space, in a kind of a bullying sort of way, I sort of think like, what are you talking about? Man, this was a long time ago. Like, what are you talking about? You're here to go hard. But, over time, you sort of realize, like, if you have something like this, if you have something in your day where, you're progressing, you're exerting yourself, and it doesn't have to be physical. This could be anything. This could be any sort of hobby or endeavor that you have, right? If you get something ritualistic for an hour, 2 hours, if you can make enough time for it like that, if you don't have so many responsibilities that you're just packed from fucking morning till night, it's nice, man. You can kind of shut everything else out, So if you get a lot of shit going on, not to say that if you've got shit going on, you don't need to deal with it, right? Dealing with your shit is always going to be better than just forgetting about it, putting it off, and just pushing it away and turning a blind eye. But it is nice to be able to have something where you just sort of forget about everything else. You just get to do what you do. You like it. You're in a zone. I don't want to say meditative because I'm sitting here doing a set screaming. But there's a little bit of I definitely think there's a little bit of that to it. And apart from the fact that, of course, I'm a nut, I want to push the gym as hard as possible. That's kind of how I talk about it. But anybody, even if you're not fucking seriously into building muscle or whatever else, I cannot think of a single person who would not benefit from cardio on a regular basis and a moderate training routine. You don't even have to do anything crazy, right? I'm not even saying get in the gym every day. But if you go from zero gym to maybe, let's say an hour, even just a couple times a week, let's say 3 times a week, do a little weight workout, maybe come in one day. I mean, you don't even have to think about anything. A total novice, dude, you're going to benefit from just kind of doing a couple sets of curls, doing a couple sets of lateral raises, getting on the leg extension and just doing a couple sets. Being exposed to just a little bit of muscular tension more than in a normal just walk around day. It's going to be good for you, man. And, I kind of say this in a little bit of a manipulative way by saying, like, you don't even have to get into it that much. Just do it a little. It's kind of like a fucking, that's bringing your buddy in who doesn't lift at all and just having him sort of, don't even give him a routine. Just tell him, do some curls, do some push downs. Just do whatever. just, come hang out at the gym with us. It's like giving them a fucking gateway lift, because before long, you'll kind of get more into it, which you just have to see for yourself. But I think fitness, even at just a basic, like staying generally fit, maybe not eating too much junk food. I know I'm kind of a dope for saying that because of all the trash that I eat, but I don't eat like this on a regular basis. If I were just maintaining, I'd eat pretty basic foods. Like I wouldn't be eating all this trash. I'd be doing a lot of normal rice and just stuff that makes me feel cool, you know. So that's the only caveat there. For me, I'm nuts. I'm not an example to be followed, right? I'm just doing this because I'm crazy. But you know, just by getting into it, I swear you're gonna feel better in your day-to-day life. Plus, who doesn't want a little bit more muscle in your frame? I mean, let's be honest. There's a reason why fucking when Peter I was about to say Peter Griffin. When Peter Parker woke up after getting bit by that spider, and I'm talking the first Spider-Man trilogy, the best one, irrefutable. Don't even try to comment on it. When he wakes up and he's fucking buff, and he's sitting there flexing in the mirror, that's a primal instinct. So if you can kind of lose the anti-gym, anti-meathead mentality that I think a lot of people who don't lift have. They're like, what do you want to get all? Oh my God, I see this comment all the time. It drives me nuts. Why do you guys get so lumpy? Like, that's the rebuttal for wanting to get big. It's like, why do you want more lumps on your body? They don't know what they're missing, right? I swear you're going to like it. And again, like I was saying, name. If you could shake up if you had a golden shaker bottle and you rubbed it 3 times Aladdin style, and Chris Bumstead popped out, just like the fucking genie, and he said, "Hey man, do you want to be transformed into like a lean 180-pounder?" Dude, come on. I don't even care what you're gonna say, because when people say things in response to other people, their actual answer gets a little bit changed. But the immediate instinctual answer in their brain is gonna be, hell fucking yeah. Boom. Press the button. This is sweet. You know. So that's my gym propaganda speech for you. Right? It can start small, man. But the first time you get an arm pump, you're gonna be chasing that forever. So that's all I got. I think I don't know what I'm gonna eat when I get home. I think Cane's is closed. A Caniac would be sweet, I know. But whatever it is, we'll get a quick little clip of it. So I will see you at home, hopefully showered and with a hot plate in front of me of something. So I guess we'll see what that is. So I forgot to add, intra workout was 100 grams of carbs in the hostile bottle. Yeah, I forgot about that. I was doing the blue Gatorade. If you're curious why the cluster dextrin shake isn't back yet, the post workout instant 50 to 100 grams of carbs plus 20ish grams of protein, I'm kind of saving it for later. That's I don't want to call it like a last resort, but in a way it kind of is. I mean, it's a super easy, like pretty much 500 calories, just like that. So I might save that for later. Like once 5,000 or so calories gets a little bit more difficult, or let's say not difficult, but it becomes my new baseline, then adding that big shake post workout, that'll definitely put me over the edge back into, maintaining growth. So I kind of jumped the gun a little bit while the water was boiling for the ramen. I was already picking at the flank steak that my dad made earlier. So basic premise, 12 ounces of flank steak, 2 packs of chicken ramen. So 100-ish grams of carbs right here, 14 of fat, 75 grams of protein, and about, I think I said 10. I might actually go back in and change it. It's probably more like at least 17 grams of fat. So I'll add that up and put it wherever. But not a lot of crazy treats today, though. When it comes to the actual kinds of foods that I'm eating, for the most part, I do look at it as calories in, calories out, right? How many carbs are in it, how many fats are in it, how much protein is in it. But protein is a little different. I do definitely put a lot of emphasis on making sure that the 250 grams of protein that I'm getting in per day is from a high quality source. You can look this up. It's I forget the exact term, but it's like the protein grading scale. So it's basically 0 to 100, right? 100 obviously being the best, 0 being the worst. And historically, I've kind of had a habit of not really tracking protein from, breads, really just any kind of non-protein source. Like it said, there's like 8 grams of protein in this ramen. From what? From the rice? Look, it's not like it's not nothing. And in a dieting context, you do need to take that into account since the proteins are going to count as calories. It is going to count as energy towards your total consumption for the day. But in a bulking context, I want to make sure that every gram of the 250 I'm getting is from, pretty much up in that 90 range. And that's where you're going to see, I haven't looked at it for a while, but it's chicken, milk, steak, fish, eggs. What else am I missing? Yeah, probably other, animal products, animal meats, right? Shit like that. And as you go lower on the scale, you're going to start to see more vegetable proteins, soys, whatnots, wheat proteins, barley proteins, like things along those lines. And that's why I'm not going to really count the protein in bread or the protein in. I'm trying to think what else. I don't know, whatever. Right? The protein in that bowl of cereal I have for breakfast. It says 3 grams of protein per serving. Come on, let's be real. You want proteins with a complete amino or acid array, right? Everybody's heard the term complete protein thrown around. So that's, best case scenario, that's in the meats. So any vegetarians or vegans, even worse, not in terms of ethics or values, but in terms of getting a really complete amino acid array, you are at a little bit of a disadvantage. I'm not going to say it's not good to do your soy proteins or whatever. I'm not saying if you eat tofu, it's going to spike your estrogen. That's not the point I'm trying to make. But I feel like it's a little bit of a, not a roadblock, but a little bit more of a hassle if that's your deal, if that's what you're working around for your diet. So this will put me at 40, 48.87. My math may end up being wrong since I'm going to have to go back and add up all the individual meals I've already tracked, but just about 4,900 calories so far and only 200 grams of protein. So I think there's still going to be one more meal before bed. Obviously, maybe not so much of a meal, maybe just a couple of treats or something from the fridge. There's I got a bag of Doritos I'm kind of been itching to eat at. Maybe I'll grab that later. But I'm going to sit here rewatching Jujutsu Kaisen Season 2. I'm not going to go all the way back to Season 1 yet. But, probably after one episode, all this is going to disappear. I'm going to have a reasonably full belly. Honestly, I'm not really there yet. After this whole day of eating, I still feel pretty slim, at least stomach-wise. I do get to a point in my bulks where I can tell I've got a ton of food on my stomach, and it's almost just a little bit extra distended. Maybe first. No. What am I saying? Not first trimester level, but if you get a ton of food in your stomach, it's going to sit there for a minute before it actually gets distributed throughout your whole build. But carbs, proteins, fats, electrolytes from all the salt in the ramen. The only thing that gets me there, this will be my last little point with this meal. When it comes to salt, it gets a lot of hate. Gets a lot of hate by the layman's. You don't want to have too much salt in your food. It's going to make you hold water, And to an extent, they're kind of right. Because you got to remember, let me just kind of get into it. So let's say you take a dude and he's been eating 2 grams of salt per day or a gram of salt per day. If that next day he slams 5 grams out of nowhere or 10 grams out of nowhere, who knows what he's been eating, he might feel like he's holding a little bit of water because it's kind of, I mean, if you have a ton of salt all at once, or if you totally cut your salt all at once, it's going to result in a pretty gnarly change in your hydration level. I'm not like I'm not super informed on like peaking for like a bodybuilding show or water weight cuts if you're like a UFC guy. But that's the kind of stuff that they're messing with. But let's say you're even getting 5 grams of salt a day, or 5 to 10, whatever. As long as you're getting a good amount of fluids in your system and you're actually drinking a lot of water, not just like 2 cups of these a day. I mean, like, half gallons, at least a half gallon. You're never going to get wrong with a whole gallon per day. Then don't worry about it. Do not freaking worry about it. If anything, having extra salts and electrolytes is just going to make you more hydrated when you couple that with all the fluids you're intaking. But I'm going to watch my show, play my phone, make this food disappear, and then we can cut to whatever I eat before bed.